I'd like to start by actually asking all of you to join me for a moment in really thinking about connecting our hearts together. And the reason for this is because sometimes our words are not entirely enough to bring about all of the information that we share with one another. There's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of spiritual self that when we talk to each other and when we're sharing information, we're actually sharing it on many other levels. So just to take a moment to move into our hearts, that calm part of yourself, and to bring yourself centered into the earth and with each other here in the circle. So just to take a moment to bring that light in and push that out. And now that we've done that, let's get started. Today has been, I believe, 10 days since the tremendous tsunami and earthquake in Japan. And the reason for this particular time with you today is to really talk about what it is that's happening on our Earth and how we can move forward into the next couple of years in transitioning. The events in Japan, of course, have been very traumatic for the people of Japan and around the world because of the amount of damage that's been done in the material world, through people's homes, through the death toll that's taken place there. There are so many people missing in Japan. And when we turn on the television or we're going to our social media websites, we're hearing about a lot of these really heartfelt pieces of information that are coming to us. And it's difficult for everyone to remain calm, to remain centered, and to understand what it is that's actually happening. So we're all out there searching for information about what's happening in Japan with the nuclear reactors, what's happening in our part of the world as far as any kind of nuclear, quote, radiation coming over to us, and also spiritually, where we are at spiritually in this process. So there have been so many developments that have taken place, and I'd like to kind of bring you back a couple of years to before this event in Japan happened, and talk to you about where we've been kind of walking towards in the last few years. It started many years ago when people started to have spiritual awakening. And this spiritual awakening that humanity has been going through the process of is actually tied into this time that we're walking through right now. In the last 10 years, more and more people have been awakening to understanding the connection between ourselves and the earth, ourselves and Mother Nature that's all around us, ourselves and the spiritual world, in meaning the other worlds, and connecting in with that. In the last few years, I'm bringing it up to the more recent, probably the last 5 years, so many of you have awoken suddenly because of a phrase that you heard or certain words that you heard said to you, and it sparked something inside for you to awaken to a point of wanting to learn more about who you are, about who we are collectively, and what it is that we're doing here on the planet. And through this process, a great many, quote, predictions and prophecies have been brought forward in the form of, whether we're talking about indigenous prophecies, or whether we're talking about Edgar Cayce or Nostradamus or any of those very ancient prophecies that have been brought forward. And all of these things are sort of culminating in this particular time, in the last year, from the beginning of 2010, when really the massive earthquakes really started. It's interesting. January of 2010, we had Haiti. And it was really a wake-up call to humanity to understand that this could happen anywhere on our planet, and we needed to prepare. Fast forward, and this is in March of 2011, and we've had this massive earthquake in Japan. But there were signs all along this path that we've been hearing and seeing and having dreams and visions of. And information from channels, from spiritual guides, from teachers that have been talking about some of these, quote, earth changes that were happening, and shift in consciousness, which is, of course, extremely important as well. So as we're moving through this time with earthquakes in Japan, Chile, New Zealand, I don't like to miss any place because, every earthquake that's happened that's been a really major one has affected people's lives. So I think the point that I'd like to make is that these events are not going to end. They are a continuation of our process in remembering who we are and for where we are in the universe with all of the planets moving into place. It's also a reminder for each and every one of us of our own personal purpose in being here. Many of you that are here at the moment, meaning light workers as we call them, or newly awakened, have purpose and reason for being here and for paying attention to all of these events, to going to our social media networks, to going to our alternative news sources, and looking at information to be prepared and to assist others around us in being prepared. But this does not mean that if you've been feeling this inside of you, that you need to go out and shake people and say, you have to do this. It's about being prepared for yourself and being the example in your community and with the people around you. And through that becomes this rippling effect. Japan has been predicted by many people, and it is and has been inevitable that this would happen at some point in Japan. So I'm very much a realist. I myself have had visions for over 20 years of massive earth changes that have been predicted and coming. And even with all of these visions that I've carried, and this is the reason why I'm driven to continue doing the work that I'm doing, to continue speaking with people and just sharing the insights that I have and the knowledge that I have with you as a collective, because many people in the community share this information with me also. So this is about all of us taking a look at these events and thinking back into our collective thought and into our individual thought and saying, did I know that this was coming? And many of you can answer yes to this, because many of you, as have I, collectively, we have been receiving messages that some of these events were going to be affecting humanity and our earth. But how do we move through this? There's one way that I believe is one of the most important, but not the only one. It's about the heart. And we've heard people coming forward and sharing this information about staying in your heart, and this is all that you need in order to move through this time. It's not all we need. It is a piece and a part of the puzzle in order for us to move forward. It is only a piece of what it is that humanity needs to stay grounded, to stay clear and calm. This is not about fear of what's coming. It's not about fear of what has happened in different parts of the world. It's about being prepared and understanding that there is a process in life. When we are born and we come to this world, we're born, we live our lives, and then we pass on and we go back to where it is that we came from. We go to the other worlds. And so it's sort of like that on the planet right now. The planet has been born with all of us as a collective. We're moving through the time of life and experiences, and we're doing it as a collective. And now we're moving into another world. So what is that other world, and how do we get there? I'm going to be looking at my notes a little bit as I'm going through this, because there's a lot of things that I'd like to share with you here today. So I'm just going to glance down a couple of times while I'm talking. So the idea here, and the reason that I've been blessed in order to come onto the program today, is because there are many things that are coming in our future, and we need to prepare and be together united. In Japan right now, there's lack of food, lack of water, lack of shelters, homes have been destroyed, massive deaths, and still, if we look at Japan as a role model, we can see that the people there have great dignity, and they have great respect for each other. And they are transitioning through this change with great pride and heart. And I believe that it has been a sacrifice of the Japanese people themselves to show the world how great catastrophic events can be dealt with on a very collective, connected, heart-centered, respectful way. And that any difficulties that we may be having, we can move forward together and work together in order to overcome. So the events of Japan have really brought to the forefront of people's minds all of these predictions that people have been talking about in regard to 2012 and what's going to happen. As many of you know, I do not believe that 2012 is going to be the year. I believe that we're already in this time, and that it started in 2010, and that it's going to continue, and that it's going to continue past 2012. So we're moving into several years of moving on our planet, physically, and also moving in our consciousness towards a new tomorrow. I'm also not in agreement with people who believe that we're going to miraculously wake up and we're going to be in this beautiful new consciousness, because that would be far too easy. And that is not what this life is about. It's not about demanding something and wanting it so we get it just because we want it. This is about a transitional time. And in the cosmos, themselves, that instant could mean 20, 30, 40 years. It could mean 2 years. It could mean 5 months. But when we are taught from the other worlds that it's going to be in an instant, it is in an instant of infinity, or near infinity, if this can be understood by you. So we're talking about the transition. So we have the events that are taking place. To be prepared, to get online, to talk to people, contact people in Japan, ask them what the situation is directly. Don't listen to any one person, any one form of information. It's about being prepared for yourself, taking that information into yourself and thinking it through for where you are.